I'm a scientist. As such, I believe that data collection is requisite before coming to a conclusion. And while the results of this study are not necessarily predictive in all cases, they are definitely predictive in mine. I spent the last just more than 2.5 years trying online dating apps to collect statistics and data. I've reported some of that elsewhere as the experiment has gone on, and I have decided today to conclude and abort all future attempts to date online. Here's why. The previous time when I tried online dating, before dating apps, I had the following results. I discovered, thinking back, that the only people who would talk to me were post-op transsexuals, single moms, generally who did not divulge that they were post-op transsexuals or single moms, con artists / catfish, and professionals. Since switching to dating apps, I can now weed out the single moms and post-op transsexuals because they will divulge that in their profiles, and I've discovered that without exception, after 2.5 years of dating and going on 0 dates and meeting up with 0 women, that there are only 2 kinds of women who will talk to me. Women who are professionals, who either offer me their presence as an escort in exchange for a financial sum, or that they are trying to drive me to subscribe to their spicy content websites. Or the other group that will talk to me, catfish, who are probably not just women who are misrepresenting what they look like with their pictures, but may not actually be women at all. In fact, I have encountered a fair few of them who are, because they were stupid enough to share with me their phone numbers or call me, male men from Nigeria, pretending to be women. Some of these are obviously very practiced and have been very successful, as I have weeded through the information gathered and gone in search of where the photos they were sharing with me originated. And the most recent one, which I was finally able to locate today, is a photo that has been being shared around the internet since April of 2019. Now, these scam artists must be very successful, or they would have given up long ago. I just find it hard to believe that they are so successful that they are able to scam so many people. For a long time, I resisted online dating on the premise that it is difficult enough to get to know somebody that you meet in real life. So why would I want to add the additional restrictions and complications of having in silico barriers between us, where I'm not able to hear their voice inflection, watch their facial expressions while they speak, or spend any time with them to find out if I really care about them before I spend any time with them. Add to this also the difficulty of the fact that a first date, if you have one from online dating, isn't really a date. It's the first time that you've met, where they will still expect you to wine and dine them. Not that I have any experience with that, because like I said, none of them actually met up with me because none of them were actually really interested. And you find out that online dating is a disservice to 90% or more of men. Perhaps the most frustrating thing for me in this experience and this experiment has been the fact that I have discovered that there are no women on these websites who are interested in meeting with me at all. That is not to say that there were not women who were interested in me. There were sometimes people who had previously right-swiped on me that I left-swiped on because they were overweight, tattooed, irreligious, the wrong political persuasion, smokers, drinkers, or said things in their bios that were expressly repugnant and contrary to my values, vision, and principles. There, of course, then can be no future between us because we don't have enough common ground for even just friends, let alone anything beyond that. And so, there was not a single woman on any of these apps in whom I was interested who wanted to actually meet me. My real-life dating experience more or less mirrors this. The last time I actually went on a date was October of 2015. And the woman with whom I went on a date, I took her to a play, Hound of the Baskervilles, at the University Theater. We walked around the campus. I thought we had a great time. And then 2 months later, she moved to Montana. Rach quit her job, packed up all her things, and moved to Montana. And I have not heard from her since April of 2018, when I decided that I was going to not initiate contact and see if she had any interest in contacting me. She did not. In fact, she hasn't initiated a conversation with me since the date. Apparently, it didn't go so well. There have been in the interim years several abortive attempts by members of my congregation and community in order to put me together with various available young ladies. A neighbor tried to set me up with a friend's daughter by inviting us all to a party at our house. The only guest who didn't come was the woman my neighbor wanted to set me up with, which was, of course, the entire reason for inviting me. I met her mother, and her mother said my daughter's going to be disappointed, but apparently she was not disappointed enough to ever reach out. That was 18 months ago. Most of the others have decided they did not even want to meet me, and the only one that was willing to meet me is an overweight mother of 4 who, when I first bought my house, was 19 and would not have looked at me twice. My bishop tried to shame me into dating single moms 2 Sundays ago. I explained to him that in my experience, single moms do not view me as a potential partner. They view me as a potential paycheck. They have financial responsibilities. They have not shown by their behavior toward me that they were interested in me at all, only that they were aware that since I have been divorced now for over 15 years, I could have 15 years worth of financial resources stored up to which no other woman has yet laid claim, and believe themselves skilled enough and ready to ply their hand at prying that wealth from my cold, dead hands. Over the last couple of weeks, as I have just been wrestling with the idea of concluding this experiment, I have come to this realization. I am not, nor have I ever been, what women are actually looking for. This does not mean that I am unworthy or undesirable. It just means that I am not what they want. I had a student who wrote me a couple weeks back who described me as funny, intelligent, cultured, and handsome. All of these things are true, except for there's one problem. She's engaged and out of play. So the only women who seem to think that I am desirable in any fashion are women who are not willing or able to choose me. A few weeks ago, I heard from 2 ex-girlfriends on a frustrating Friday afternoon who contacted me and apologized for how they treated me. I believe that they have now grown old enough. One is, we'll leave it at that. They have grown old enough that they realize they have made a mistake, and they are perhaps trying to mend fences in order to lay the groundwork to try to come back. The problem is that I have not seen them for 7 or more years, and it's been 9 years since we dated. If you do not grow together, you grow apart, and there is nothing in that intervening time that should justify those hopes with which they seem pleased to solace themselves. One of them doesn't even know where I live. Might not stop her, but I have no interest in revisiting our life because she has changed and I have changed, and therefore what we would build together has changed too, and I don't think I have any interest in building the things that she would want to build. It's very frustrating to reach this point of your life and realize that although you see movies, you know your grandparents, your parents, and your neighbors coupling up with others, that you have very little chance of coupling up with anybody that you would find acceptable. This must be how most women feel, since they think all men are beneath them. I sometimes will joke with my students that they are made of sugar and spice and everything nice, and I'm made of frogs and snails and puppy dog tails, but I say those things because that is how they regard me. I do not believe that I am of low desirability, but based on the fact that the market, the women, choose the product, the men, and there are no women choosing me, I must be a 0 out of 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. I don't believe that I'm a 0 out of 10. I think in the general male population, I'm probably a 4, 4.5 overall, predominantly because I'm now not as young and not as thin. But I can run 3 miles without stopping, and I do so every day, 5 days a week, at 5 to 5:30 in the morning. I have discipline, endurance, I have financial resources, I have education, intelligence, and experience that are concomitant with my age, abilities, and inclinations that apparently don't mean anything to women until they are too old to be of interest to me. This is a disappointing experiment. I was hoping that it would turn out differently. I don't think anyone goes into a relationship or seeks after a relationship hoping that it will fail. I did once hear a girl say, I hope that's going to be my next ex-boyfriend. And I thought I was cynical and bitter until I heard that. But I don't think that normal people walk around and go, which of these people is going to be the next person who breaks my heart? We enter into these relationships with hope. And I entered into this experiment with hope that I would be wrong. But the evidence is insufficient to reject the null hypothesis. My hypothesis is that it is just a matter of putting myself out there. My null hypothesis was that putting myself out there will have no effect, no significant effect, and the evidence suggests that I cannot disprove the null. Therefore, evidence suggests that putting myself out there and just trying, a matter of numbers, you just need to ask enough people, is going to have that outcome for me. I hope that this is simply because I am an outlier. I know that outliers happen sometimes, and I hope that your experience is different. I am not an expert on love. I am an expert on not being loved, a fate from which I hope to spare you. I once gave the following advice to a young man from my congregation just before he left for his mission. I said, men have 3 options. Your first option is that you can become what women want. And if you can achieve that, then you can have your pick of women. Your second option is to become what you want to be with your life, and then take your pick of the women who find what you have become to be appealing. The third option is that you can become what God wants you to become, and then take what he gives you. For better or worse, at the age of 14, I decided that I was going to make God a prominent and preeminent position in my disposition, and I am paying the price for that decision. Women do not want a gentleman. They do not want a virtuous man. They don't want a leader. They want an ATM, a taxi driver, an entertainer, a psychiatrist, and a white knight to rescue them from the consequences of their bad choices. Fortunately for me, good choices appear to have come to bring me bad outcomes. Not to say that I think that I didn't dodge a bullet with some of the women I have dated, but this is not what I was hoping would happen. I did not pick these women hoping they would hurt me or break my heart. I picked them because I was hoping that the things that they told me were true. About 10 years ago, there was a woman I was dating that I really, really liked. On August 9th of this year, it will be 10 years since she dumped me. This week, I printed out and reread her last message to me. And in it, she says, I want you to know I meant everything that I said. That's not possible. Because you said things, you made promises you did not keep. We all do this. Everyone's imperfect. But based on the way that I am treated, I cannot possibly be valued by the market. I don't think that I'm below average. For my age, I'm probably a 7 or 8 out of 10. It has taken me longer than I want to get to the financial status I would have liked, because for 5 years there was a pay freeze here in academia, and I worked here for 5 years without a pay increase. If not for that, I would have achieved where I am today 5 years ago, and I would have been more appealing when I was in the sweet spot to find someone still. Instead, I was a mediocre wage with a decent body, who didn't have a lot of options on how to spend his free time and how to have adventures, but who frequented cultural events and other places as often as his calendar and his pocketbook would allow. But that was not enough for the women that I met. And I was 30 years old before I met a woman I liked who actually liked me, or so I thought. And 10 years ago, she told me to pan sand. It is possible that I have lived my whole life and never had a woman actually care about me who was not blood. If that is your status, I just want you to know I feel for you. I weep for you. I wish that it were otherwise. And that whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope that you find love, that your love is reciprocated and appreciated, that you can find happiness and be with somebody who thinks that you are adorkable. I was hoping that there would be someone who found me adorkable. Instead, as is true on most evenings, I will leave my office in a short while here. I will run an errand or two. I have 2 to make on the way home, and then I will walk my dog, feed him dinner, make dinner for myself, and then figure out what I'm going to do with my evening alone. I have no social media. I have no one I'm trying to talk to. I have no romantic prospects, and truth be told, I haven't had a romantic prospect that was really of any interest or likelihood to succeed since 2014. It's a sobering place to be. But at least now I have data that shows I was not just assuming things. Evidence suggests that making more of an effort is not going to be something that makes any difference in my life. I'll leave you with these thoughts. They are the ones going through my head at night when I go home. John Steinbeck's son wrote him a letter. You can look it up on the internet. At the end of the letter, John Steinbeck says this: "And don't worry about losing. The main thing is not to rush it. If it's right, it happens. Nothing good gets away." In the Book of Mormon, we read the following: "Everything has been done according to the wisdom of him who knoweth all things." If it's right, it happens. I can only assume that this is not what God thinks is right for me. I have prayed about it, I have pondered it a lot, and I have come to this conclusion as a response: that if it is ever going to be important to me, it will be easy to recognize, it will be easy for me to engage, and it will be likely to succeed. In the absence of that, where God does not provide a way, the commandment does not apply to you. We are taught that God gives no commandment unto the children of men, save he shall prepare a way for them to accomplish the thing that he commands them. I guess this is not a commandment for me. For the rest of you, I do hope you find hope and love, companionship, and meaning in your life. I hope that if you have ended up with someone who didn't love you and you have kids, that your children love you. I hope that if you don't have kids or someone else, that you find meaning and purpose with humans with whom you interact. Because if we were supposed to be alone, we would have been put on our own planets. If you feel alone, find someone to talk to. If you can't find anyone else, well, I'll be available. Godspeed, and God bless you all.